Hello and good morning, friends. Today I want to do a little quick one for you, and I want to discuss what happens when a well chlorination doesn't actually solve for the bacteria in your well, and what do you do? Let's get into it. So bacteria can get into a well into a variety of ways, right? Sometimes it's naturally occurring, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it'll come from the water underground, sometimes it can be influenced by the stuff from above ground. So the biggest thing is you got to make sure you test your water, right? If you're not testing for it, how do you know if you actually have bacteria in there or not? So the EPA recommends to test your water once per year, right? For at least bacteria and for nitrates. Yeah, you can test for it more if you want. They even sell at-home test kits if you want to go that route. Going through a lab is probably the most efficient way to do it, and also make sure you get the most accurate result, but to each their own. So let's say that you test for bacteria and you get a positive hit. That sucks, right? Nobody wants to be drinking bacteria in their water, but let's not panic just yet. So if bacteria fails, usually the process that everybody will go through is to chlorinate the water. Now, chlorinating the well is basically where you figure out how deep it is and you introduce chlorine, right? The goal of it is to basically kill off everything. So usually, at least in Maryland, you're going to want to get to 100 parts per million in order to sterilize or sanitize the well. Now, you introduce the chlorine into the well itself, and then you're going to recirculate the water in the well to kind of get a good mix between the chlorine and the water itself. Now, after you do that, you need to let it sit for a little while, usually about a day, maybe a little bit longer if you want to let it sit for a while. Once it sits, you've killed off all the bacteria, you run off that chlorine, and you test again. Now, usually, I would say a majority of the time, not 100% of the time, but a majority of the time, you'll actually get it to where, yes, you've killed off all the bacteria and you're good to go until you test again for next year, right? Now, you test for it and it fails. That sucks. You just spent all this time and money and effort to chlorinate the well and it didn't work. Next, there's two ways that you can approach this. First way is you just chlorinate again, but double your dosage. Use a ton more chlorine, and that'll usually kill off whatever else might have been floating around there. The second option, which is going to basically be your last step, is an ultraviolet light. So if you've tried chlorinating your well, and the chlorine is just not sticking for whatever reason, and it's just not working, the ultraviolet light usually will solve that problem completely. Now, it's one of those 99.9% of the time type situations. So you get the chlorine, or you get the chlorination to fail, and you move to the ultraviolet light. The first thing you gotta do is make sure you put a sediment filter in place. You gotta make sure you clean up that water before it goes through the ultraviolet light, otherwise the light's not gonna do anything. So you put your filter in, you have your UV light in, and now you need to test one more time to make sure that it actually did what it's supposed to do. The oils on your skin, if you touch the bulb, can cause some problems. So you want to make sure that you're not touching it and you're changing it, and make sure you're wearing gloves. It's not hard. Usually they just unscrew, you screw a new one in, call it a day. It's just kind of like with a headlight for a car. Just don't touch it with your bare hands. Now, once you put this ultraviolet light in, you got to make sure you change the bulb at least once a year. Every manufacturer will be slightly different in how they go about, your maintenance process, but usually most of these manufacturers will tell you got to change the bulb once per year, as it loses effectivity as the year goes on. Those bulbs don't usually burn out unless it's been sat for 7-8 years, right? Usually they're on all the time. You don't want to turn them off and turn them on randomly, but they're going to be on for quite a while, and those bulbs will eventually burn out, but you don't want to let it burn out before you change it. You want to make sure you change it once a year. Now, there is another option that's not super common, but people have been discussing using ozone to clean up the water. I've never worked with it nor played with it, so I'm not 100% sure exactly how it works, but on commercial systems, they do that. Like for municipal water supplies, they'll use that because it's a little bit cheaper. Usually, chlorinations will work, but this video is for those who don't have the success that they're hoping for in a chlorination, and the solution is an ultraviolet light. Simple as that. Now, when you're sizing your ultraviolet light, it's very important to make sure that you size it appropriately, right? You got to figure out, all right, we plan to have a 6 gallon per minute flow through these pipes. We need to make sure we get a long enough contact time with the water for this filter to actually, or for this UV light to actually do what it's supposed to do. Most of the boxes will tell you how long, or how much water it's meant for. And most residential UV lights, you'll see them anywhere from 6 inches to 20 inches, maybe 24 inches. you're not going to see like a giant, super long one on a residential house. You might see it on like a really, really big home, especially if they have a constant pressure system. You might see one that's maybe this 5 foot long, but they're not super, super common. I hope that you found this video informative. Leave a comment below. Tell me, do you guys have ultraviolet lights on your well, or were you thinking about getting one installed? Tell me, I'm curious. If you like this kind of content though, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and until next time, guys.